take two people now. Yourself, pretty frank already. You wanted to ask a question?
I'd like to ask the candidates, would they support Bob Crow when he puts, I understand he's putting a resolution to the TUC to get them to coordinate the fight of all the unions, which was what the TUC was set up for, so that the working people can get rid of this rotten system.
Your first on that one?
Yeah, well, of course, it's not just Bob, it's a number of unions, including our own, have insisted with the TUC that we need to coordinate our action in order to defend ourselves against the current onslaught. As I said to you before, this onslaught by this government is ideologically driven, more so than we've seen for a long, long time. And we've got to be brave enough to respond to it. And that can only be done if we have a united front from the trade unions. We were hoping as a union that we would have had a demonstration on the streets of London in October. That has now been put back to next spring. But the reality is that that does give us an opportunity. That does give us an opportunity to mount a campaign to raise the consciousness of not only our members but of the public in general. Because here's the key: for over 12 months, I mean 18 months ago, we all knew it was the spivs and the speculators and the greedy bankers who were to blame for the collapse in the system. Now we're being told it's workers, in particular public sector workers, to blame for the public sector debt that we have. And every single day, every newspaper has been drip feeding that there is no alternative. There is no alternative to cuts. So much so that it gets into the psyche of even our own members and ordinary working people that, well, you have to have cuts if we've overspent. We've got to be prepared to put forward the alternative. We've got to be prepared to reject the fact that there is cuts. There is no need for any cuts within public services. In fact, it's not only morally wrong, it's economically stupid. It will possibly dip us back into another recessionary period. And we've got to put forward our alternatives. And there are alternatives. And that alternative is the People's Charter. A list of aspirational demands which puts which puts people before profit, which talks about a fair society, which talks about fair taxation. Let me just give you one small example. We're told by independent fiscal authorities that every single year the Treasury loses a minimum of £24 billion a year through tax avoidance. Not tax evasion. Tax evasion is illegal. Tax avoidance is legal and open. And £24 billion a year is lost. If we had a government that was bold enough and brave enough, and the last government wasn't, had it have been, it would have still been in power, to grasp that nettle, then not only would we be able to not cut public services, we'd improve public services, but more importantly, we'd be able to put massive investment into manufacturing, because it's through vibrant manufacturing that you can produce good quality public services. And if we arm our activists and our members with the alternative so that they say, well, hang on, perhaps there is an alternative. If we raise people's confidence to do that, and if we get out on the street and demonstrate, and if we support our members who are going to be involved in industrial action, and indeed at the executive of the TUC, one of our joint general secretaries called for a one-day general strike to be built towards. And that's to make certain that private sector workers are not kept apart from this dispute, because it's all our disputes, and that's the type of campaign that we have to raise.
Just on the People's Charter issue, which our branch is a very strong supporter of, there's leaflets actually over there on the People's Charter if you want. You've already got one right, so yeah.
Well, what can I say on this? This is a difficult one for me. I mean, Gail is heavily involved with the TUC and with the ETUC. So she is aware of the difficulties and stresses and strains of bringing groups together. She is a mediator in that sense, and I have seen her work with opposing groups and bring them together into a single campaign. And particularly, she's had a lot of input into our Health Before Profit campaign, which is, it's been identified, we are going to have a major fight in the NHS in the next 5 years, and I dare to suggest that in 5 years we may not have an NHS unless we fight really, really hard. And Gail has been heavily involved in that campaign, as I and others are. So really my only answer I can say is that definitely she is a candidate who is for bringing disparate groups together to fight these issues and get them changed. That's the best I can say, to be honest with you.
Thanks, Chair. The question on Bob Crow support the coordination of the fight. I tell you, our union's record on coordinating action's not good. Not good. In fact, it's bloody awful. We're either the last to ballot or the last to announce the ballot. We couldn't get a coordinated action when Mark Sawatka called for it last time. Should we support Bob Crow? Absolutely. Will we? I hope so. Am I sure? Well, no, not really. Our record's not good. I tell you, the European TUC is even more of a problem for us, because it was September 29th, I think it was, what's his name, whoever ended up there, who used to run our TUC. You ask any of our members to name them. They don't know them. They're appointed job for life. People who don't feel our pressure, our strain, and our problems. So September 29th, I think, was going to be a balloon launch. Are we going to have a big demonstration on September the 29th? I doubt it very much indeed. Should we? Yes. Now, Derek Simpson, at our policy conference, not very far from here, if I was strong enough I could throw a stone and hit the Manchester from here. From the floor was a motion which talked about action. Action is what it said. And Derek Simpson said, from the rostrum, wheeled out to say these words, national strike, you're living in cloud cuckoo land. That was weeks ago. Worse, he said, and if we took it to the TUC, nothing would be done. That's a joint general secretary. Why wasn't he rounded on at the time? But he wasn't. People either agreed with what he said, or they never stopped him in his tracks. That's a problem. That is a problem in this union. Now, the People's Charter, I support it. Absolutely. Most people, I think, would when they read it. It's a fine set of values for a different world that's possible. But if it's just like our policy on repeal of anti-union laws, those leaflets will gather dust. If it's like Clause 4, nothing will be done about it. So what I say about the People's Charter is make it happen. I've never had my nose broke in a campaign nor a rally. I've had it broke in a fight. And it's a fight that we're in. A fight to the finish for trade unionism, for public ownership, and for a different society. Not just a set of ideas or wishes or maybes. We are in a fight. The last point I'm going to make is not just supporting Bob Crow on his call for collective coordinated fight. What about John MacDonald when he puts down in October about employment law and repeals of some of the worst aspects? Could you even guarantee that the Unite-sponsored MPs would support it? I couldn't.